Today, we're tackling something pretty incredible in newborn medicine. What happens when a baby's brain doesn't get enough oxygen right at birth? And how do doctors use a treatment that seems, well, completely backwards to save it? It's a genuine race against time, and the stakes, as you can imagine, are just impossibly high. So this leads us to this really wild question, one that kind of messes with your head. How can cooling a newborn's brain, making them cold, actually save it from damage? I mean, that's the one thing you're told never to do, right? Keep the baby warm. It sounds totally backwards, but believe it or not, this is the key to an absolutely groundbreaking therapy. All right, so here's what we've got on tap. First up, we'll get into what HIE actually is. Then we'll see why it's not just a brain problem, but a whole body problem. After that, the main event, the cooling cure. We'll also cover how else doctors protect the brain, and we'll finish up by looking at some real hope for the future. All right, let's get right into it. The problem, what exactly is HIE? Well, the full medical name is a bit of a mouthful. Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. Don't worry, we're going to break that down right now. So, at its core, HIE is what happens when a newborn's brain suffers from a lack of oxygen and blood flow right around the time they're born. And it's not just a one-and-done kind of thing. Think of it more like a devastating cascade, a domino effect of damage that all starts from that one initial hit. You can think of HIE as a nasty 1-2 punch. First, you've got hypoxia. That's the part that means a serious lack of oxygen. Then you've got ischemia, which is a lack of blood flow. And that's the real kicker, because blood isn't just the Uber for oxygen, it's also delivering crucial fuel, like glucose. So when you lose both at the same time, well, that's what makes this so incredibly dangerous for a brand new brain. Okay, so how do doctors figure out how bad the damage is? Well, they use these really detailed scoring systems, like something called the Thompson score. They look at everything, from how alert the baby is, to their posture, to their reflexes. For example, a really severe sign is something called decerebrate posture. It's this very specific, rigid way the baby holds their body that points to a deep injury. All these little details get added up, and that score helps them figure out if the HIE is mild, moderate, or severe. And that is absolutely crucial for deciding what to do next. But here's the thing, this isn't just about the brain. HIE is really a whole body problem, and you absolutely have to understand that to manage it the right way. So what happens is, during that initial crisis, the baby's body goes into full-on survival mode. It triggers this amazing diving reflex that shunts all the available blood to the most important places, the brain and the heart. But, there's a trade-off. This comes at a huge cost to other organs, like the kidneys, the liver, and the gut. They get sacrificed in a way and can take a really big hit. In fact, kidney problems are super common in these situations. So even though doctors are running around trying to support all these other organs, the number one priority, the main event, is always crystal clear. The main battle is for the brain, period. And that brings us to our cooling cure. The official name is therapeutic hypothermia. And it's just this incredible idea, basically fighting fire with ice. I love this analogy. Think of it like an overheating engine. You've got to cool it down to keep it from seizing up. See, after that first lack of oxygen, this second wave of damage kicks off. Brain cells get all inflamed and overexcited, and they literally start to die. Cooling is like hitting a giant pause button on that whole process. It slows the brain's metabolism way down, which gives those cells a chance to just chill out, recover, and stops that whole deadly domino effect in its tracks. Now, this isn't just sticking a baby in a fridge. It's a super controlled 3-step process. Step 1 is induction. They cool the baby's core temperature down to 33.5 degrees Celsius. Then comes maintenance. They keep the baby at that exact temperature for 72 hours straight, 3 full days. That's the magic window for interrupting that secondary damage. And finally, and this part is just as critical, they have to be rewarmed slowly. You can't just crank up the heat. Rushing it could cause all sorts of problems, so it's done incredibly carefully over many hours. So does it work? Oh yeah. The results are just profound. Before cooling therapy, if a baby had moderate to severe HIE, there was about a 65% chance they would either pass away or have a major lifelong disability. With cooling, that number drops to around 45%. A 20 percentage point drop might not sound like a lot, but in medicine, that is a monumental leap. We're talking about so many more kids getting a shot at a healthy life. But here's the deal. As amazing as cooling is, it doesn't work alone. Think of it as the star quarterback. It still needs a whole team of other interventions playing defense, all designed to do one thing: protect that brain, and help it recover. The docs call this whole approach brain-oriented management. And the goal is simple: create the most stable, calm, low-stress environment possible for that healing brain. So that means obsessively managing blood sugar, watching for seizures 24/7, making sure blood pressure is stable and fluids are perfectly balanced. Every single one of those things is another layer of protection. Let's just zoom in on glucose for a second. Why are doctors so obsessed with blood sugar? Well, because if the blood sugar drops too low, that's called hypoglycemia, it's like landing a second devastating punch on an already reeling brain. You're basically starving it of fuel right when it's most desperate for energy. It can make the final outcome so much worse. So keeping that glucose level normal isn't just nice to have, it's an active strategy to protect the brain. Okay, so when you put all of this together, the cooling, the brain-oriented management, everything, what does the future actually look like for these kids? Well, the news is genuinely, truly hopeful. We've seen a huge positive shift in the prognosis in just the last couple of decades. Just look at this. It tells such a powerful story. For babies with moderate HIE, that's the group that gets the biggest benefit from cooling, an amazing 75% now survive without major long-term neurological problems. Just let that sink in for a second. 3 out of every 4 babies get to go on and have a healthy life. That's incredible. Now, of course, we've got to be realistic. The outcome really depends on how severe that initial injury was. If a baby has mild HIE, the outlook is almost always excellent. But severe HIE, that's still a very, very serious challenge. Even with all this amazing medicine, the risk of a poor outcome is unfortunately much higher. And to help families through this unbelievably tough time, doctors have some amazing tools to get a better picture of what's going on. An MRI scan, for instance, can show them exactly where and how much damage there is, which can help predict future challenges with movement. And an EEG, that monitors the brain's electrical activity in real time, gives them priceless information about how the brain is functioning and recovering. In a time when everything feels so uncertain, these tools can provide some much-needed answers. And all this brings us to a final thought. Therapeutic hypothermia was just this revolutionary leap. It completely changed the game for thousands of families and proved that we can step in and actively protect a newborn's brain. So the question we're left with is, as we learn more and more about the brain, what's the next incredible breakthrough going to be?